Gnosis auton. That's Greek. In the Greek city of Delphi, about 4th century BC, they built a beautiful temple to god Apollo. In the porticos to the temple, they inscribed multiple maxims that were famous all over ancient world. And gnosis auton is one of those Greek philosophical maxims. Socrates would take that maxim, ran with it, and build a whole philosophy around gnosis auton. Of course, you all know what it means, right? Know thyself. Gnosis auton. Know thyself. For Socrates, it was the beginning of all knowledge, the beginning of all philosophy. For Jesus, it was a weapon he used against a tempter. You see, in both Genesis, our first reading, and the Gospel passage, we have scenes of temptation. Adam and Eve are tempted, and later Jesus is tempted on a desert. And in one story, they fail. In another story, he emerges victorious. And I believe that the reason why Jesus was victorious is because he knew himself. He knew who he is not, and he knew his intrinsic, his most fundamental value as a person. Adam and Eve were not so sure what is their place in the beautiful, brand new, still smelling like a new car creation. You see, both Adam and Eve and Jesus have heard something that should have empowered them to face temptation. With Adam and Eve, it was a refrain from the book of Genesis after each day of creation. For 5 days, God creates everything there exists, right? And 5 times, the narrator in the book of Genesis, and God saw it was good. On the 6th day, when God created Adam and Eve, it says God saw it was very good. So if Adam and Eve remembered that they are very good in themselves, if they were strengthened by that knowledge, if they truly accepted that they are very good in God's eyes, I tend to think that they would have easy time saying to the snake, "Go back to where you came from." But it's either their earlobes were not developed yet, or they were doubting, how can I be very good in God's eyes? After all, I am not as skinny as I should be. I have a wrinkle here and there, and perhaps I am not as very good as someone claims to be. With Jesus, it is the very first sentence that follows the scene of the baptism in Jordan. Today's first sentence in the Gospel, "And the Spirit led Jesus to the desert," is the next sentence after he's emerging from Jordan River. And what happened in Jordan? He was baptized, yes, and a voice from heaven said what? You are what son? Beloved son. Jesus and Adam and Eve heard a message of affirmation. Adam and Eve hear, this is very good. Jesus hears, you are my beloved child. And empowered with that love, he goes into the desert and has no problem saying no to the tempter, because Jesus knows, I am loved. I am very good. I don't need to be a king. I don't need to be a god. I don't need to be a superhero, because I'm loved. And because he knew himself, he came out victorious. Now go back to your temptations, to the times when you had to decide, go left or right, do what is right or do what is less right. If you only believed and knew yourself and knew your value as a beloved person, as a very good crown of God's creation, we would all have kicked his behind all the time. If only we knew ourselves. Gnosis in Greek. Know thyself. Don't doubt yourself. Know thyself. You may not be perfect. You may not be a supermodel. You may not be a wonderful husband or wife, mother or child, but you are very good. You are loved. For goodness sake, believe me when I say that you are loved the way you are. Not unless, not until, not if, just the way you are today. You are very, very good. You are beloved. If you live with that knowledge, if you believe in thyself, there will be no temptation that you cannot conquer. Know thyself and know that you, my friend, are truly loved. Amen.